The night shift at the emergency call center in Cleveland, Ohio was usually quiet after 2 a.m. The city slept, and the phones stopped ringing as often. For Ethan Cole, this was the hardest part of the job, staying awake in a silent room full of glowing screens and half-empty coffee cups. At 2:17 a.m., Ethan's screen lit up. Incoming 911 call. He adjusted his headset and answered in a calm, trained voice. 911, what's your emergency? For a few seconds, there was only silence. Then he heard breathing, fast, shaky, like someone trying not to cry. Then a woman whispered, "Please, don't talk loud, he's outside." Ethan immediately sat straight. His fingers moved quickly over the keyboard, tracing the call location. "Ma'am, what's your location?" There was a soft sound, like a door handle moving. "I'm in a motel. Room 307. He tried to get in. I think he has a knife." Her voice was shaking so badly Ethan could barely understand her. "Ma'am, stay on the line with me. Police are on the way." "What motel are you in?" There was silence again. Then she whispered, "I don't know. I just see a sign outside. Green, and red lights, please hurry." Ethan signaled dispatch to send a patrol unit to all motels in that area. His heart was beating faster now. He had handled many emergency calls before. Robberies, heart attacks, domestic violence, but something about this call felt different. In the background, he heard 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. The woman stopped breathing for a moment. Then she whispered, barely audible, "He's here." Ethan spoke softly, trying to keep her calm. "Listen to me. Lock the door. Move something in front of it. Stay on the phone with me." "I already locked it," she said. "But he has a key. I saw him. He was standing outside my window before." "Do you know him?" "No. I saw his face. He was smiling." Suddenly, there was a loud bang sound on the phone, and the woman screamed. The line filled with static, like the phone had fallen to the floor. Ethan shouted into the headset, "Ma'am, ma'am, are you there?" Then the line went dead. Call ended. Ethan immediately called the number back. The number did not exist. Not disconnected. Not unreachable. It did not exist. Police units arrived at 3 nearby motels within minutes. Ethan kept listening to the radio, waiting for an update. 10 minutes later, the first officer reported, "Dispatch, we checked all rooms. No incident. No woman in room 307. Another officer reported the same. Then a third voice came over the radio, older, slower. "Dispatch, the motel on Brookline Road, it doesn't have a room 307, and this place has been closed for years." Ethan frowned. "Closed? What do you mean closed?" The officer replied, "This motel burned down in 2015. It's abandoned now. No electricity. No working phone lines." Ethan felt a cold chill run down his back. He slowly opened his computer and searched the motel name the officer mentioned. An old newspaper article appeared on the screen from the Cleveland Daily News, dated October 12, 2015. The headline read, "Woman found murdered in motel room before fire destroyed building, killer never found." Ethan's hands stopped moving on the keyboard. He looked at the time of the old news report. The murder happened in room 307. And then he looked at the call log again. Incoming 911 call, 2:17 a.m. Below it, the system location trace finally updated. Call origin, Brookline Motel, room 307. The motel that burned down 10 years ago. And the woman on the phone had whispered, "He's outside." Ethan Cole didn't go home after his shift ended. By 6:30 a.m., the call center was filling up with the morning team, but Ethan was still sitting at his desk, staring at the same screen. The call log hadn't changed. 2:17 a.m., incoming call. Location, Brookline Motel, room 307. Status, number not found. It didn't make sense. Every call that came into 911 was traceable. Even blocked numbers left a digital footprint. But this one, it was like it came from nowhere. Or worse, from sometime that no longer existed. Later that morning, Ethan drove out to Brookline Road, about 20 minutes from downtown Cleveland. The place was exactly how the officer had described it. Abandoned. The remains of the Brookline Motel stood behind a rusted metal fence. The sign was still there, faded green with broken red neon lights hanging loose. Just like the caller had described. Ethan felt his chest tighten. She wasn't guessing. She had seen it. He stepped closer to the fence. The building was partially collapsed, blackened by fire. Windows were shattered. The front office door hung open, creaking slightly in the cold wind. A warning sign read, "Danger. Unsafe structure. No entry." Ethan ignored it. Inside, the air smelled like dust and burnt wood. His footsteps echoed as he moved slowly through what used to be the reception area. Everything was frozen in time. A melted computer monitor, broken furniture, old papers scattered across the floor. Then he saw something interesting. A filing cabinet, half burned but still standing. Ethan pulled it open. Inside were old documents, guest records, receipts, and incident reports. Most were damaged, but one file caught his attention. It was labeled, Room 307, Incident Report. His heart started beating faster. He opened the file carefully. Inside was a printed report, partially burned but still readable. Date: October 11, 2015. Guest name: Sarah Whitmore. Incident: noise complaint reported by adjacent room. Staff attempted contact. No response. Below that, someone had handwritten a note. Strong odor reported. Possible emergency. For the next 2 days, he kept replaying the call in his head. The whispering voice, the slow knocks, the final scream, everything felt too real to ignore. He had already checked the official records and confirmed that Sarah Whitmore was a real person, and the report from the Cleveland Daily News matched everything he had found inside the motel. The timeline made no logical sense, yet every detail connected perfectly. It wasn't just a story anymore. It was something unfinished. On the third night, Ethan returned to work. The call center looked the same as always, quiet, dim, almost lifeless after midnight. But for Ethan, nothing felt normal anymore. He kept watching his screen, waiting without admitting it to himself. At exactly 2:17 a.m., his screen lit up. Incoming 911 call. Ethan froze. For a second, he considered letting another operator take it, but something pulled him in. His hand moved slowly as he accepted the call. 911, what's your emergency? Silence. Then breathing. The same breathing. Ethan's chest tightened. Ma'am, he said carefully. The voice came back, soft, broken, terrified. Please, don't talk loud. Ethan's heart started pounding. It was her. I know, he said quietly. You're in room 307. There was a pause on the line. Then the woman spoke again, confused. How do you know that? Ethan didn't answer immediately. His mind was racing. If this was happening again, then maybe this time he could change something. I'm here to help you, he said. Listen to me carefully. You need to leave the room. Now. No, I can't, she whispered. He's outside. I can hear him. Right on cue, Ethan heard it again. Knock, knock, knock. The exact same slow pattern. Ethan gripped the desk tightly. Every sound was identical to the first call. Sarah, he said. The breathing on the other end stopped. How do you know my name? She whispered. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment. This wasn't just a repeated call. Something had changed. I need you to trust me, he said. The man outside, he has a key. You were right. He's going to open that door. The woman began to cry quietly. I don't want to die. Ethan felt a sharp pain in his chest hearing those words. He turned to his system and started typing quickly, trying to trace the call again, but the screen was glitching, flickering like it couldn't process the signal. Listen to me, Ethan said urgently. Go to the window. Is it open? Yes. Get out. Right now. Don't use the door. There was movement on the line. The sound of hurried footsteps. Then suddenly, a loud metallic click. The door. Unlocking. The woman gasped. He's inside. The line filled with noise. Heavy footsteps. A struggle. Ethan shouted into the headset. Sarah. Go. Go. For a brief second, he heard something new. A man's voice. Low. Calm. Almost amused. You shouldn't have answered that call. Ethan's blood went cold. The voice wasn't talking to Sarah. It was talking to him. Then the line went dead. Ethan sat frozen, staring at the screen. The call log updated slowly. Incoming call. 2:17 a.m. Status. Active, interrupted. Location: Brookline Motel, room 307. But this time, there was something new added at the bottom. Secondary audio detected. Ethan opened the playback file with shaking hands. He skipped to the last few seconds. The man's voice played again. Clearer now, closer. And this time, there was no doubt. The voice said, "I can see you too, Ethan." Ethan couldn't sleep for the next few days. The 911 call haunted him, not just the woman's voice, but the man's last words. He replayed the recording again and again, analyzing every sound, every pause. It was clear that whoever this man was, he knew more than he should. He even knew Ethan's name. That wasn't possible. He was just an operator. Nothing in his routine could have given that away. Determined to find answers, Ethan started digging into the Brookline Motel case, looking for anything that might connect him, the woman, or the killer. He discovered a police report stored in the Cleveland Public Records Archive, filed under Unsolved Homicides 2015. The report detailed the murder of Sarah Whitmore. Investigators had struggled to find evidence, but one line jumped out at him. Witnesses claim a man matching the description of a motel staff member was seen near room 307 prior to the fire. Identity unverified. Ethan also found another article in the Cleveland Gazette, dated a week after the murder, which mentioned a man named David Crane, an employee at a nearby warehouse, who had mysteriously disappeared the night after the fire. His photo, grainy and black and white, stared back at Ethan from the scanned newspaper page. The resemblance between David Crane and the voice on the call gave Ethan chills. He cross-referenced Crane's name with old police logs and found something even more disturbing: a 911 call from 10 years ago, made from a different motel in Cleveland. The report stated that a woman had reported a man trying to enter her room. The officer had noted something strange. The man's description was nearly identical to the reports from the Brookline Motel case. Crane had never been apprehended. Ethan's pulse quickened as he realized the pattern. Every 10 years, a 911 call had come from a woman in danger, always near the same area, always linked to Crane. It was as if the killer existed outside time, waiting, hunting, leaving messages only for him to find. The deeper Ethan went, the more he felt he was being drawn into the killer's game. He discovered a personal connection he hadn't expected. One of the police officers listed in the Brookline report was Detective Laura Bennett, who had led the initial investigation into Sarah Whitmore's murder. Ethan realized she was still on the force, now working cold cases. He reached out to her. They met at a small cafe downtown. Laura was cautious but intrigued by Ethan's account and the recordings. She revealed something Ethan hadn't known. She had received similar, ghost calls, years ago from the same locations, reports that were dismissed as pranks or miscommunications. The connection was undeniable. Someone, or something, was orchestrating these calls to appear real, to manipulate time and information. Laura leaned forward, her voice low. "This isn't just a case of murder. This is a message, Ethan. Whoever this is, they're trying to make themselves known. And it's personal." Ethan swallowed hard. That word, personal, hit him like a cold wave. The man's voice had said he could see Ethan. Now it made sense. The calls weren't random. They weren't just warnings. They were carefully targeted, and Ethan was at the center of them. He left the cafe with a sense of dread. He understood now that room 307 wasn't just a location. It was a link, a thread connecting murders, calls, and time itself. And somewhere, waiting in the shadows, the killer knew Ethan was getting too close. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching him. Every shadow on the street, every stranger in a coffee shop, seemed like it could be David Crane. The files he had dug up, the recordings, the newspaper clippings, everything pointed to a man who had eluded the law for a decade, leaving fear like breadcrumbs behind him. Detective Laura Bennett had agreed to help, but she warned Ethan not to confront Crane alone. They spent hours piecing together his history. Crane had been meticulous, almost surgical. The Brookline Motel murder, the previous unsolved 911 calls, the warehouse disappearances, each incident followed the same pattern. A woman alone at night, a man outside her room, a call that reached the operator, then silence. 10 years, same method, same signature. Ethan returned to the 911 recording for clues. The man's voice, calm, precise, almost amused, seemed to contain hints, like he was playing a game and wanted Ethan to solve it. Laura suggested they focus on Crane's known locations and connections. It was there, hidden in old credit card records and employment documents, that they found it. Crane had worked maintenance jobs in several motels across Ohio, each tied to the 10-year pattern. Then came the breakthrough. Ethan noticed a recurring number in the records, a phone line registered in the name of a deceased motel manager who had died in 2014. Somehow, Crane had kept the number active, or perhaps it was a ghost line tied to his old accounts. When Ethan traced the call log from that number, he realized something horrifying. The call didn't just come from a location, it came from the exact motel room where Sarah Whitmore had died. 10 years later, it all pointed to the same truth. Crane had found a way to continue his crimes, even after death seemed to have stopped him. Or maybe he had never left. Laura suggested a trap. They would monitor the Brookline motel site remotely, using hidden cameras and drones, and wait for the next signal. Ethan was skeptical but desperate for answers. Then, at 2:17 a.m., the phone rang. The same whispering voice, Sarah Whitmore, but this time Ethan noticed something new. There was laughter underneath it, low and chilling. He looked at Laura, wide-eyed. "That's him," she said. "Crane's voice is behind it." They traced the signal in real time. For a fleeting moment, the feed showed a shadow at the window of the burned-down motel. A figure, tall, thin, unnervingly calm, stood behind what remained of room 307's frame. The drones couldn't pick up his face clearly, but the presence was undeniable. Suddenly, the man spoke. "You shouldn't have come here, Ethan. You were warned." Ethan's blood ran cold. The voice was coming from the speakers, yet the shadow moved independently on the camera feed. It was Crane, or something pretending to be him, orchestrating the entire sequence from a place that didn't exist. Laura turned to Ethan. "We can't just wait. He's luring us into the same trap he used before. We need to confront him, but carefully." Ethan swallowed hard, remembering the phone call, the slow knocks, the scream, the whispers. Everything led to this moment. The killer wasn't just a man. He was a puzzle, a shadow in time, a force that had used the law, technology, and fear itself to keep his crimes alive. And now he had made his move. The screen flickered, the shadow disappeared, but the whisper remained. "I see you, Ethan. Always." Ethan knew there would be no turning back. Crane, or whatever had survived, had chosen him. And this time, it was personal. Ethan and Detective Laura Bennett planned carefully. They returned to the Brookline motel, but this time with police support, drones, and recording devices. Every corner of the burned-down building was covered. The area was quiet, almost too quiet, as if the city itself was holding its breath. At 2:17 a.m., the phone rang again. Ethan's hands shook as he picked it up. The whispering voice of Sarah Whitmore returned, but this time it was different. It was calm, almost pleading. "Ethan, he's here," she said. The drones showed movement near the ruins of room 307. Shadows flickered across the walls. But when the cameras zoomed in, there was no one, only the faint outline of a figure that seemed to vanish as soon as they tried to focus. Laura whispered, "This is him. This is Crane." Ethan realized something horrifying. The previous calls, the pattern, the timeline, they were all part of Crane's obsession, yes. But Crane had died years ago. His disappearance had never been solved, yet all evidence pointed to someone, or something, continuing the killings. Ethan noticed a small detail he had missed before, a fire-damaged phone, half buried under rubble near room 307. He lifted it carefully. The line was still active. And when he connected it to the tracing equipment, the signal led not to a building, but directly to the old 911 network, the very system he had been working on all these years. It hit him like a thunderbolt. Crane had never physically returned. The calls weren't coming from the motel. They were coming through time and systems he had touched for years. He had hacked the network, embedding his voice, creating phantom calls that only someone paying attention could hear. And he had chosen Ethan. The whispers on the phone became clearer. The woman's voice, Sarah Whitmore, was no longer real. It was Crane, manipulating Ethan's mind, using the past to trap the present. Then the most chilling part. The voice shifted to Ethan's own name, now perfectly clear, right in his ear. "I see you, Ethan. You're mine now. The drones. Feeds flickered and cut out. All phones in the building rang simultaneously. Ethan realized he wasn't just observing this anymore. He was part of it. He felt a presence behind him, cold and unmoving, though no one was there. Laura grabbed his arm. We need to leave, now, she shouted. They ran from the ruins, cameras and phones left behind. When Ethan glanced back, the shadow of a man stood framed in the remains of room 307's window, solid, black, impossibly still. He couldn't tell if it was Crane or a memory of Crane. The image vanished when he blinked. Back at the station, Ethan reviewed the call logs again. Every single 911 call he had received, from the original room 307 to the phantom calls, was gone. The system showed nothing, not a trace, except for one file, left open on his desk, a burned, scanned page from the Cleveland Daily News. The headline read, Unsolved Murder at Brookline Motel, Room 307, and in the margins, written in faint, almost invisible pencil, someone had scrawled, I always get my last call. Ethan understood then that Crane's obsession had transcended death. He had created a cycle, a loop of fear, calls, and the unseen, always targeting those who were paying attention. And now, Ethan was part of the loop. The calls might return. Room 307 might never truly die. As he left the station that night, Ethan's phone buzzed. A message appeared, with no sender. See you at 2:17 a.m. Ethan froze. The cycle was beginning again. The final twist wasn't a murder. It was something far worse. Crane had become immortal in fear itself, and Ethan had been chosen to witness it forever.